Hey everyone, Games Apprentice here, back with another video, and this week I'm going to be giving you 5 great Game Pass games to play, perfectly suited to the Steam Deck. Now it seems so easy to find 5 games to play on Steam Deck that are great. Just go on Metacritic and boom, play these. But not only would that be a short video, but it'd be completely pointless. You could just do it yourself. Being a big fan of handheld gaming, I can tell you that some games just work better on handheld than others. There are also games that work better on streaming than others. While first-person shooters can be fun on a handheld, if they're not designed for that system, it's going to put you at a bit of a disadvantage competitively, and it's just going to be harder single player. On top of that, for streaming, any lag is just going to make it unplayable. Another thing that you've got to take into consideration is battery life. You don't want to play your Steam Deck just plugged in all the time. So while something like Hollow Knight or Dark Souls might seem well suited to the Steam Deck, you can't just save on a whim. If you get lower battery and you can't get to a save point in time, you're going to be very frustrated. 4 of the 5 games that I'm going to talk about are also on Steam, so if you don't have Game Pass, you can still buy those separately. All 5 also play great on Xbox too, so if you don't have a Steam Deck and you've got Game Pass and you're watching this video, I've got you covered there as well. Now, when the Steam Deck was first announced, one of the biggest selling points for me personally was being able to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on handheld, because I can't do that on the Nintendo Switch. Set in ancient Greece, you play a mercenary who's on the hunt to find their parents, while also helping in the Greek and Spartan conflict, and hunting down a bunch of heads of some cult or something for reasons. It's an absolutely massive game and a world full of exploration, armed combat, assassinations, archery, naval battles, and setting people on fire. And whilst I love playing it, with my limited big screen time, it's just a game that I'm never going to finish on a home console. I managed to finish Assassin's Creed Origins, but as I wasn't as into that, I pretty much just ran through it and missed every side quest. Assassin's Creed Odyssey though is just so much better in every way. And it's a world that's stunning, that it feels like you're on an adventure and on a lovely holiday. It's a game that should be savoured, not rushed, and when I got my Steam Deck, this was the first game I downloaded, and it was a nightmare trying to download it on the Epic Store. Being about 100 gigabytes and the Epic Store just not being natively on the console, it was just constantly going into standby and failing. When I did eventually download it, it ran like utter shit. And with a tear in my eye, I just deleted it forever. Being able to play it smoothly on Game Pass though, with 0 downloading, is awesome. Even more so because I can just pick up where I left off on the Xbox, rather than just starting over. In my opinion, this is easily the best in the series, suck it Valhalla, and the perfect open world game on the Steam Deck. The original Peggle was an awesome game that I played to death on my iPod Touch that's now pretty much lost to Father Time. It spawned the excellent Peggle Knights, the not so good Peggle Blast, and the not as good as the original but still very good Peggle 2. Unlike the other games, Peggle 2 never came to mobile or handheld, being tied in to home consoles for the past decade. However, that's all changed with Game Pass on the Steam Deck. If you're unfamiliar with Peggle, it's a bit like a pachinko machine. It's most basic and misunderstood. You drop a ball from the top of the screen, it bounces around randomly, and you end up with a score. But there's so much more to it than that. Whilst Peggle does involve some luck, you'll need to master strategies and skills to truly be a Peggle master. The skill all comes down to the initial shot, as this is the only bit that you've got control over. By hitting an orange peg and bouncing it across the level directly onto another orange peg, for example, you can rack up a large score from the skill shot. Taking timing into account as well, you can increase your chances of getting the ball into the moving bucket at the bottom, giving you an extra ball. To complete a level, you need to clear all the orange pegs. However, if you clear all the blue pegs as well, you're guaranteed a huge bonus. The single player is broken down into character-based levels. Each character has their own specific skill, and to complete that section, you need to complete all their levels. Each one having a set of missions to accomplish, as well as additional challenge missions that are a bit more specific. Combine this with Xbox's achievement system and you've got absolutely tons to do in this game, which couldn't be more perfectly suited to a handheld system. If you like puzzle games or pinball, this one definitely shouldn't be overlooked. Now Fuchsia or Fuga is pretty dark. but I'll get to that in a moment. This is the only game on this list that I hadn't played prior to getting the Steam Deck. Its turn-based mechanics and written dialogue though make it well suited to a handheld console. In Fuga, you control a bunch of children who board a giant ancient mystical tank after their village is destroyed on the quest to rescue their families. Throughout their journey, the children bond both verbally and via combined stat boosts. You need to select which children will be in which weapon slot of the tank, having different skills offering multiple types of damage and defense. The different combinations offer a lot of strategic options. The tank also possesses a super weapon known as the Soul Cannon, and that's where things get a bit dark. The Soul Cannon is basically a last-ditch attempt to defeat an enemy. If all else fails, the Soul Cannon will prevail and you can soldier on. Well, not all of you. The ammo that powers the Soul Cannon is, if it isn't already obvious, a soul. So before you can use it, you'll need to decide which of the children is going to be sacrificed by climbing into the cannon. Then you get to sit back and either grieve for the character you've lost, creepily enjoy watching all the other characters get upset about their friend that died, or just feel nothing. It's an interesting and fun strategy game that recently got a sequel on Game Pass as well. It's definitely worth a look, check it out. Now the Civilization games are amazing, and until recently only PC owners have been aware of that, with console owners just getting crappy spin-offs like Civilization Revolution. If you're thinking, well, they were great, you missed out on something special. Civ 6, however, changed all that and it came to everything. Civilization is basically a 4X game. Explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. And yes, I said all that in one take. Boom. You're the seemingly immortal leader of whatever civilization you pick and take them from a small settlement across thousands of years to a sprawling empire, assuming you make it that far. The aim of the game is to meet one of the victory conditions, which can be winning the space race, becoming the one true religion, world domination, and multiple other scenarios. For the first few hundred years, you'll be trying to expand while constantly being harassed by barbarians, and then your plans for expansion change when you meet another civilization settling near the resource that you were after. You can attempt to befriend them, or you can take it by force. The problem with the game is that a decent game of Civ is pretty much an entire weekend down the toilet, and you need a weekend to play it. You can't just play a game of Civ 6, come back to it a couple of weeks later. You need to go to bed angry about France bullying you in 500 BC and holding a 2,000-year grudge against them that you plot to resolve the next day. If you don't, you forget all about the grudge and the magic is lost. With the Steam Deck though, you don't just have to go to bed angry, you can go to bed still playing. With its incredibly turn-based gameplay, you can literally just go about your entire day whilst playing it and have the best day ever. The game controls surprisingly well on console with shortcut keys that make sense and buttons displayed at all times in case you forget. If you're used to playing it with a mouse or touchscreen, it won't take long at all for you to get used to this. Now if you've never played a Civilization game before, jumping into Civ 6 can seem daunting, but my advice to newcomers is always just jump in at the deep end. The pacing of the games has always been really well done, allowing you to only do 2 or 3 different things per turn in the early game, and you can easily just crack on whilst being ignorant to a lot of stuff. I've been playing the game 30 years and there are still plenty of mechanics and screens that I rarely, if ever, go into. Last but not least, the newest game on this list is Chained Echoes, a modern JRPG heavily inspired by 90s classics. It's tough for a 16-bit style JRPG to stand out in 2023, but with its interesting story, characters, art style, pacing and battle mechanics, Chained Echoes does just that. On paper, the story itself will feel very familiar to anyone that's ever played a JRPG before. An eclectic bunch of jobbers band together to save the world. The way it's presented though, cutting between characters like how Octopath Traveler should probably have worked, feels a lot more modern storytelling and makes it much more engaging. With plenty of twists and turns along the way, it'll keep you hooked. The battle system feels like an early Final Fantasy. It's turn-based with the usual attacks, specials and item mechanics, with a special power similar to Final Fantasy's Limit Break, except shared between the whole team. The other unique system is the overdrive system. Attacks and specials move up your team's overdrive bar, which, when you're in it, increase your stats. However, beyond the overdrive bar, you can overheat. dramatically reducing your stats. You can lower the overdrive by blocking and using special items and skills that do so. This adds a whole sort of resource management to battles. Now, I always prefer playing a JRPG on a handheld, as I don't always need to be fully immersed, walking between areas and any grinding that's required. But at the same time, they'd feel incomplete without those mechanics, as sometimes you want to grind and wander around. Chained Echoes is a quality one that you should definitely check out if you're a fan of the genre or if you're looking to get into it. So those are 5 recommendations from me, but there are absolutely loads more where that came from. If you want more ideas from me of what to play on the Steam Deck, whether it's through Game Pass or just in general, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content, and feel free to let me know what you're playing in the comments. I hope this video has been helpful, and I'll be back soon with another, so hopefully I'll catch you next time.